6 months into his mother's pregnancy, Slim's father would begin to reveal a darker side of himself. After the birth of Slim, his true colors were exposed. He suggested to Slim's mother that they give the baby up for adoption to the Catholic Church. His mother refused, and his father threw Slim against the wall with bad intentions. However, he survived, and his father would abandon them both. Ultimately, Slim's mother would be in 2 serious relationships while Slim was a child. One marriage with a man by the name of Henry Upshaw, who was a square and took good care of Slim and his mother. Henry's heart was broken because his wife and the little boy who he had grown to love were just ripped out of his life by a con man named Steve. Steve was a low-down, dirty dog who convinced Mary to pull a hustle on Henry Upshaw, taking him for all he had at the time. 3 years later, after the money from Henry ran out, Steve would start beating Mary to the point that on Slim's 14th birthday, his mother had her mouth wired shut due to a beatdown by the hands of Steve. Steve would never return after he laid the smack down. Once again, it was Slim and his mother left alone. Slim would thrive academically and get a scholarship to Tuskegee. There, Slim started bootlegging while in college and decided to leave. Slim wanted to be a part of the underbelly. By 1937, he was outside in dim Milwaukee streets. In the year 1940, Slim was caught in a scam and had to serve a 2-year prison sentence where he mastered the art of Thundercat pimping. Slim would arrive in Chicago in 1942, and he would be a mentee to Baby Bell, a legendary pimp in Chirac. Iceberg Slim was known not to hesitate to break a bitch. He would break a hoe down like a bag of Colombian cocaine if any of his rules were broken. He was an unreadable individual, and his name, Iceberg Slim, rang bells throughout the city of Chicago. In December 1945, Slim would be tipped off by his homeboy that he was being investigated for human trafficking, where his bottom female dog turned state evidence against him, which led to a conviction where he had to serve less than 1 year. He left Leavenworth at the age of 20 years old. Slim was busted for armed robbery and sentenced to Cook County Jail for another year. On Good Friday in 1947, he escaped after serving 3 months of a 1-year sentence term. Now a fugitive, a junkie, and a pimp, he was on the run for a little less than 10 years. Slim would be apprehended by the law in the late 1950s, where he would do 9 months solitary confinement to finish his armed robbery sentence. While in solitary, Slim realized that he could not let the man break him and that pimping was a young man's sport. He received a letter from his mother, who was in California. It stated that she had become very sick. He campaigned for his release to the prison warden via letter, and this is when Slim realized the power he had with a pen and a piece of paper. It was his first step away from a life of crime. The letter worked, and he was released in time to see his mother alive and well. When Slim got to California, he changed his name to Robert Beck, taking the last name of the man his mother was married to at the time. He met Betty Shue, who became his common-law wife and the mother of his 3 daughters, while he was working as an insecticide salesman. In 1964, now going by Robert Beck, Slim considered himself a square while killing roaches and other pests to make ends meet. With a wife and 4 small children at home, he struggled with living the average simp life. He hated the square life, and while venting to Betty about the way his life used to be, legend has it that Betty and Slim could finish each other's sentences. Betty was magnificent with a typewriter, and Slim had a strong command of the English language. The couple created a 100-page masterpiece of a manuscript called Pimp. One day, Betty came across an ad in the Los Angeles Sentinel, a newspaper for black folks. The publishing company Holloway House expressed a need for black writers. Slim made an appointment with the publishing company. Slim walked in with the manuscript and walked out with a check for $5,000, and that was the start of Iceberg Slim, the author. Slim was so descriptive and vivid with his portrayal of the underbelly. He was requested to provide a glossary for all the slang terminology used in the book. Pimp sold very well, mainly among black audiences. By 1973, it had been reprinted 19 times and had sold nearly 2 million copies. Pimp was eventually translated into German, French, Italian, Portuguese, Spanish, Dutch, Swedish, Finnish, and Greek, according to Slim's widow. Diane Millman Beck. Slim's final years were plagued by financial worries and deteriorating health. Slim suffered from diabetes and became increasingly reclusive. He died from liver failure in April 1992, age 73. The legend of Robert "Iceberg Slim" Beck will forever live on through the underworld and mainstream media platforms all across the globe. For the record, Slim made two promises to himself: no glamorizing his former life, and no snitching. I don't think he snitched because it is common knowledge that he changed names during his storytelling. The life of any true pimp will be glamorized, and their legend will always live on in the underbellies. Pimps up, hoes down. All information comes from valid sources that can be found anywhere online. Don't forget to subscribe to The Narrative TV. And tell him Joe Hundo sent you.
Cable dogs. Yeah. All right.